Hola, buenos dias, good morning. My name is Chris Hunter. We'll see if we can get the clicker to work. Maybe. There we go. Morning, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Chris Hunter. If you don't know me, I am the co-founder of Galoy and also your co-host and co-organizer for Adopting Bitcoin, a Lightning Summit in El Salvador. It is pretty amazing to see all these beautiful faces in the audience. Thank you for joining us. Quite simply, we believe Bitcoin is money, and we want to make it easy for people around the world to use Bitcoin as money. My co-founder, Nicholas, and I decided to, we had a crazy idea. We were standing around in August, and we said, why don't we, two guys who have never organized any conference in our life, organize a 700-person global summit during a pandemic in El Salvador. And so we... And I think it's a classic case that we were just too dumb to know what we were getting into, but I think we pulled it off, so here we are. But more seriously, why adopting Bitcoin? Two main reasons. Number one, nobody had taken up the mantle to organize a Lightning Summit since the last one in Berlin more than 2 years ago in July of 2019. And secondly, and more importantly, we wanted to help ensure the success of Bitcoin adoption. And what does that really mean? It was a pretty exciting time in June after President Bukele had announced that Bitcoin would become legal tender in El Salvador. And my partner, Nicholas, and I were here over the summer meeting with banking executives and other leaders from business and government, and it was clear that there was a real knowledge gap and a real lack of understanding just as to what Bitcoin was or is and why it's important for people. And why is Bitcoin important for people? Quite simply, Bitcoin is a trust machine. It allows two people who don't know each other, who don't necessarily trust each other, to communicate and exchange monetary value. And this has profound implications for humanity. I come from New York City. My country, the United States, was founded a couple hundred years ago, in part on the idea that we could separate the church from the state. Many early Americans were fleeing Europe and fleeing religious persecution. With Bitcoin, we now have, for the first time in human history, the possibility of separating money from the state, separating money from the power structure. To get a little more granular, this chart shows time for the last 500 years, and for the last 500 years we've had 5 different global reserve currencies, and as you can see represented graphically, each reserve currency lasts for roughly 1 century, starting with the Spanish Empire in the early 1500s, then the Dutch, then the French. The British pound was the dominant currency through the 1800s, and then post-World War I, the US dollar to this day has served as the global reserve currency, which begs the question, is it time for something new to step forward? Bitcoin is still young. It just celebrated on October 31st its 13th birthday. Let's put that in context. The internet was 13 years old in 1996, 25 years ago. Some of you in this room were not even born in 1996. Many of you were not using the internet at that point in time, and using the internet when it was 13 years old was a very different experience. It took a long time for pages to load over a conventional modem. Typically back then we were all paying by the hour, whether at home or surfing in an internet cafe, and many of the companies and platforms that we use and love today simply didn't exist. Bitcoin at 13 years old is emergent. And what do I mean by that? For most of its life, it's been a speculative asset. It's only now recently emerging into a store of value, or what some might call digital gold, and it will eventually become a broadly used medium of exchange or payments. And what enables this to happen? Well, it's something called Lightning. Which gets to the creation of my company, Galoy. My partner, Nicholas, and I firmly believe that Bitcoin is money, internet native, digital money over IP. And so about a year and a half ago, we published our thesis. And many people, when they read Satoshi's white paper and he talks about peer-to-peer electronic cash, say, okay, I should compare the Bitcoin protocol to Visa, or I should compare it to PayPal, and that's where they go wrong. And in our thesis, we talk about how Bitcoin should be compared to Fedwire, which is the settlement layer for all US dollars. And Fedwire is a private members club, accessible only to a few rich elite, that only operates a few hours per week, that takes several days to reach final settlement. Bitcoin is very different. Bitcoin is open to everybody in the world. If you have electricity and an internet connection and a computer, you can access Bitcoin. It's open 24/7, 365. You effectively reach final settlement in 30 minutes, not 3 days. And so we published our thesis, and I tried to raise a seed round from all the fancy venture capitalists, and we got 3 universal pieces of feedback. Number 1, we love you and Nicholas as a team. Number 2, we totally believe your thesis and think that the world is going to evolve in that direction. And number 3, we're not giving you any money whatsoever because we think you're 5 years too early to build on Lightning. So what did we do? We called Mike. This is the story of how we ended up in El Zante creating the Bitcoin Beach Wallet. August of 2020, after we got rejected from literally every venture capitalist in the world, we approached Mike. We cold called him. We had read about him in Forbes magazine. We had listened to him on a podcast, and we said, hey, you've got a little momentum in this project. Let us build pro bono technology for you. Let us build a mobile wallet that consumers and merchants can use to transact on Lightning. Let us build a novel, never before seen, shared custody multi-sig backend for you as well. And what emerged was the world's largest community-owned Bitcoin bank. We created the Bitcoin Beach Wallet, has tens of thousands of active users, hundreds of thousands of transactions moving through the system, all on Lightning, all for goods and services. This is not remittance, this is not on-chain transaction. We proved to the venture capitalists that they were wrong. It gets more exciting. You know, all new technologies go through an innovation or an adoption curve. You have the early innovators, the geeks, the cyberpunks who use stuff at first. We're in the early adoption phase for Bitcoin. We don't have mass adoption yet. We don't have the majority of people understanding or using Bitcoin around the world. But it's super exciting because who are the early adopters of Lightning and Bitcoin? Companies like Twitter, the country of El Salvador. These are not trivial organizations. If we're in the early adoption phase still, and the country of El Salvador and Twitter are the early adopters, I think that's pretty good news. To give one specific data point, this is a research chart from our friends at Arcane who published a recent report on Lightning. And just month over month, from August of this year to September, we went from order of magnitude 100,000 people using Lightning-enabled wallets to 10 million people. 2 orders of magnitude in a month, in part thanks to the leadership here in El Salvador. We're very proud of the summit that we've organized literally in 90 days. We have 700 attendees from more than 30 countries around the world. We have a world-class roster of speakers. The schedule is packed. The summit is sold out. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors, especially the top-tier shark sponsors, LN Bits, Kingsway Capital, and OKCoin. Without them, this conference doesn't happen. And more importantly, even though my company, Galoy, has taken the P&L responsibility for the conference, we are not looking to profit at all. We are giving 100% of the profits either to the local Salvadoran community or to worthy Lightning developers. You can follow along online. If you don't know the schedule, go to adoptingbitcoin.org. Conference updates on Twitter at adoptingbtc, live tweets from @GaloyMoney, and if you're tweeting yourself, please use the hashtag adopt21. So I want to leave you with one final thought. People often talk about things being a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And when I try to explain Bitcoin to my normie friends, I start talking in terms and saying that Bitcoin is one of the 7 most important technologies ever invented for humanity. And when I start using those terms, they think that I'm more crazy than they already know that I am. But Bitcoin, in my estimation, is on par with fire and the wheel and the invention of agriculture and the invention of the steam engine, which gave rise to the Industrial Revolution, and electricity and the internet in terms of being fundamentally important to humanity. This is not a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is a once-in-a-species opportunity. I'm glad that you're all here. Please continue to educate. Please continue to evangelize. Please continue to build. And have no doubt, we're all going to make it. Thank you.